Of course, LinkedIn is owned by MSN. MSN was founded by Bill Gates, and Bill Gates still owned his vaccine stock in 2021 and 2022 when this was all going down. It was only when Bill Gates sold his COVID vaccine stock that he later came out and said, we really overreacted. This was a pandemic for the elderly and the morbidly obese, and it's really just like the flu. You can source that anywhere from Bill Gates. Not a college graduate, not a doctor. Man, I just got a message this morning from my friend who saw Oasis in New Jersey last night. Last shows of the tour on the East Coast. I missed Oasis, but we are not looking back in anger. At least not today. But with clarity. I want to throw back to a scary time. Back in early January 2022, a national survey conducted by Rasmussen Reports in partnership with the Heartland Institute asked Americans, especially likely Democratic voters, about a series of hypothetical punitive measures aimed at people who refused the COVID-19 vaccine, even with the change of definition of the word vaccine that took place in 2021. These are the actual findings. 55% of Democratic voters 3 years ago said they would support fines for Americans who chose not to get vaccinated for COVID-19. That's Rasmussen Reports public content. 59% of Democrats favored a government policy requiring unvaccinated individuals to remain confined to their homes at all times, except in emergencies. 48% of Democrats believe the government should be allowed to fine or imprison individuals who publicly question the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines on social media, TV, radio, or digital platforms. Now, you can source that on every single news station that covered this back in January 2022. Furthermore, 45% of Democrats supported requiring people who refused the new definition of vaccine to live in internment camps. 45% of polled Democrats in a January 2022 Rasmussen poll supported requiring people who refused the new definition of vaccine to be put into camps. RasmussenReports.com, public content. 47% of Democrats said they supported digital tracking, such as smartphone apps or wearable devices, to monitor unvaccinated individuals for quarantine enforcement. 29% of Democrats said they supported taking children away from people who refuse the new definition of the COVID-19 vaccine. These weren't policies. These weren't laws. These were real answers from real, quote, Americans, unquote. That's where we begin today. And this is the Bridgeton Beacon, where we shine a light on local stories, forgotten truths, and the voices the mainstream leaves out. And for this little editorial, I'm Tom, the producer. I'll be the host. Today's episode is just personal, not nostalgic, not angry, just honest. It's a story about memory and about media. It's about what happens when public fear becomes private persecution and how fast people forget. Or methinks how fast people want to forget themselves. The redefinition. Back in 2021, something strange happened. Quietly, the CDC changed the definition of the word vaccine. They removed the word immunity from the definition of vaccine. I didn't accept that. I thought that was very odd and a very odd time to do it. This is one of the reasons I canceled my appointment to get vaccinated for COVID. They removed the word immunity. So then New York City starts giving away cheeseburgers. Then the AP says math is racist. So I called the pharmacy and I'm like, yeah, I'm actually going to be out of town. I got to cancel my appointment. So my decision was my decision. But to many people around me and to everybody who was still allowed to speak in major media, it meant I deserved punishment. And I don't mean criticism. I mean real, hateful speech labels, anger, incitement to violence about people like me, from TV anchors, late-night comedians, sports stars, even presidents. I was called, well, everybody who was unvaccinated was called a racist, a Nazi, a fascist, a transphobe, a murderer. All because I declined a newly redefined pharmaceutical product and said so publicly. The censorship machine. I lost everything on LinkedIn that I had built up over 20 years. Over 3 sentences that I posted. And I quote, I beat COVID in 2 days with a leave. True story. Open the world back up already. This is a joke. That post cost me a lifetime ban from LinkedIn. They called it hate speech. Let me read it again. I beat COVID in 2 days with a leave. Open the world back up already. This is a joke. They called that hate speech. Of course, LinkedIn is owned by MSN. MSN was founded by Bill Gates, and Bill Gates still owned his vaccine stock in 2021 and 2022 when this was all going down. It was only when Bill Gates sold his COVID vaccine stock that he later came out and said, we really overreacted. This was a pandemic for the elderly and the morbidly obese, and it's really just like the flu. You can source that anywhere from Bill Gates. Not a college graduate, not a doctor. So I'm called a racist, a Nazi, a fascist, a transphobe, a murderer, all because I declined this new product. I get kicked off of LinkedIn for hate speech, lifetime ban. The only reason I'm back on LinkedIn now is because I bought a new computer with a new IP address and I use a VPN to access it. I'm very sure I'm still on their Nazi list. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, every single one of them issued warning, suspensions, and bans, sometimes temporary, often permanent. My crime was literally asking questions. And while I was being literally silenced, the U.S. government was paying social influencers $11 billion with a B to push the exact opposite and hateful narrative about people like me. 11 billion of your tax dollars were spent subsidizing calling me a Nazi, a fascist, a racist, a transphobe, a murderer. $11 billion. Remember all the celebrities dancing in needle costumes and masks? Remember all the hashtags? Remember all the nurses dancing around? I remember. the coordinated ridicule of anyone who dissented. When I tell people now that I remember seeing anchors and presidents and prime ministers and global associations saying things like the unvaccinated should be banned from hospitals, the unvaccinated should be put in camps, they say that never happened. Do you remember? Did it happen or didn't it? When I say that people called for the internment camps in this country for people like me, but that Australia literally set up internment camps for those who didn't take the COVID thing? Internment camps. Did you freak out when free countries started putting people in camps? I wonder. Denial is a hell of a drug. It wasn't a dream. It happened. It was real. And for a lot of us, it was horrifying. It's still traumatic. I'm pretty sure I know of my friends and relatives, every single one of them that would or would not chase Anne Frank into an attic for being unvaccinated. Let's talk accounting tricks. Let's talk about one of the worst parts of COVID was the accounting fraud. Above and beyond them pushing narratives, and you can Google AP articles that say math is racist. So don't call me a liar. It's not COVID time anymore. Math is racist. I think they were probably saying that because of the accounting fraud they did around COVID. Did you know the CDC said you weren't vaccinated until 14 days after the shot? Did you know when you went and got a shot and then you went home and told your friends and family, hey, I'm vaccinated? No, you weren't. Did you know that? Do you even care? Why would that matter? Well, it matters because there's a 2-week span that takes place somewhere after the time that you get a vaccination where all the reactions and all the deaths happen. I'll give you one guess where that 2 weeks sits in your life timeline after vaccination. Oh, immediately. Literally for 2 weeks after your vaccination is when injuries manifest, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Deaths spike. If there are injuries or deaths from a pharmaceutical, they take place, most of them take place within that time frame. So that means if you had a heart attack, a stroke, a seizure, or died in the first 2 weeks after vaccination, you were literally counted as an unvaccinated COVID statistic, even though they put the needle in your arm. That's like playing a coin flip game and hiding every single head under your sleeve. It's not science. But try explaining that to educated people around you. Some of them will think you're unhinged. That's the official narrative. What Canada's doing now? Well, here's something you're not even allowed to talk about on most social media platforms, and the words I use have to be delicate because I can't even say the real word on YouTube. Canada, where vaccine-injured individuals who were forced to take the thing are now being encouraged to end their selves via government-assisted euthanization. We are thousands deep in assisted endings in Canada as of today. Thousands, over 10,000 assisted endings. That's what Canada's doing to the people they forced to do something that hurt them. Now their reward is, hey, we'll put you out of your misery. Oh, Canada. Now, my story and an open invitation. This really isn't about relitigating the pandemic. There's no benefit to that I just want people to remember. Nothing drives me crazier than when I mentioned to somebody, remember when they didn't want people like me in the emergency room? And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, like I said, I know every single person who would have chased Anne Frank into the attic for being unvaccinated. Keep your eyes peeled. This is going to happen again. And you don't have to agree with me, but I lived through the years where all these words lost their meaning. Racist, transphobe, blah, 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 blah. Anti-science? I'm anti-science because I want to do long division? Now, if you're a physician, a nurse, a public health administrator, or anybody involved in the COVID-19 response who believes I've gotten anything wrong, we will platform you all day. I would love to be Man, I would be so relieved if I was wrong on every point. So this is an open invite to anybody to come on. We will have a mic for you. We'll do remotes, but if you can come on to Bridgeton Beacon and offer corrections, context, or clarification, we'll give you all the time and space to do that you need uninterrupted. This isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's just about making sure no one forgets what happened from every angle. If you'd like to respond to this episode, or share your own story from the pandemic era. Maybe you weren't allowed to hold your grandmother's hand while she died. Those stories are trampled. Maybe your very best friend overdosed as soon as they sent them a check for $1,500 and told them not to leave their bedroom. Or maybe you heard something crazy like they changed the definition of vaccine and you were just like, wait, what? But then you got busy. Everybody's busy. Well, we're a community podcast for South Jersey and beyond. We shine a light on the stories that others would rather forget. If you can help with clarification or addition, reach out to editor@bridgetonbeacon.com.